we saw trucks coming down out of the hills. Dust, dust, dust. Finally, they arrived at the little San Onofre, I think, was the straight railroad station. We loaded on, they took us back, way back into the hills of Camp Pendleton. And there we trained some more to be platoon leaders. No fancy stuff, just the kind of thing that you needed later on to lead a platoon. Put on ships, we were dispersed, 200 of us, as Mike said, to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th divisions. We didn't know why, we didn't know where we were going, but the people doing the planning knew those were the 3 divisions that were going to go to Iwo Jima. So when we got to Hawaii, we trained for a while on the side of Haleakala. How many were there? Any of you guys? Oh, there you are. A beautiful spot, as close as to heaven as we would ever be. And then we put on ships again, went over to Honolulu, getting ready to go out into the Pacific. Again, no destination told us. While I was there, I went, this is a story I wonder whether I should tell or not, but I will. While we were there, I went down to Waikiki, and I met a young Army officer. And we talked about, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm about to get on a ship, go out the Pacific. And he said, well, God, he said, I am the escort officer for a USO troop. He said, it's Charlie Butterworth is the star. Any of you remember Charlie Butterworth? God, he was a great comedian in Fred Astaire movies. Anyway, and he said, but we got 10 showgirls on. And he said, they're wearing me out. All right. And then he said, you know, I need help. Do you suppose, would you like to sign on as assistant? I said, well, gee, let me ask the major who's in charge of it. So I went back to the ship and I told him the whole story. Here's my opportunity. I thought I could serve better there. and he said, Lieutenant, are you out of your blank, 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 blank mind? You're on this ship, we're leaving in 2 days, and you're going to be on it, and forget all that stuff. As I stand here today, I wonder, what kind of a talk could I have given if I'd taken that job, gotten that job as escort officer? Well, I can dream. Once we got out in the Pacific and started forming up into the convoy, for the first time they told us what our destination was going to be. Iwo Jima, a small island 700 miles from Japan, had a small volcano at one end, Mount Suribachi. It was 4.5 miles long, 2.5 miles across at the widest, and they anticipated it would be a 4-day operation. That, to me, that sounded pretty good. But the guys on board who'd had combat experience, been on other operations, Roy Namor, Saipan, Tinian, they were very skeptical. They said, 4 days, doubt that, doubt it very much. And then the pictures started coming in from the reconnaissance planes. And they showed a few emplacements, but not too many. The number of Japanese on the island, I never heard an estimate. We subsequently found out it was probably between 21 and 23,000 Japanese combatants on the island. The final photo that was taken went low enough and showed a Jap soldier in a clearing, and he was shaking his fist at the airplane as it went over. We all agreed that was a bad sign. The pre-invasion bombardment, bombing by the Air Force hadn't softened that soldier, at least, up very much. D-Day dawned bright, sunny, you might say a perfect day for an invasion. And those that were going in at the outset got in their boats and steamed toward the island. By then it was being plastered by battleships, cruisers, destroyers, even some rocket gunboats. So there was a haze of smoke over the island itself. But they hit the beach on schedule, and the first word back was, assault accomplished, troops landed, minimum opposition. Within an hour, two at the most, that changed. The general there, General Kuribayashi, had set up a defense, and that was part of his plan, to let the first and second waves hit the island with minimum opposition, and then bring to bear everything they had. And from the hidden caves, emplacements, blockhouses, there was the roar of the artillery, the crunch of the mortars, the chatter of the machine guns. It was a literal hell. The casualties sustained that first day were monumental. Many of the outfits, like the ones that I subsequently joined, Baker Company, 1st Battalion, 23rd Marines, lost all but 2 officers on that first day. When I went up to the command post to be assigned to my platoon, much to my surprise, I found that one of my classmates, a surviving officer, was now the commanding officer. He was the most senior officer left. He welcomed me. I talked to him yesterday. He said, yeah, I'll never forget when you came up. Your eyes were as big as a saucer. And I could believe that. But he said, we're scheduled to move out, but probably won't happen today. In the meantime, go meet your platoon sergeant. He's one of the most experienced men we have in the company. Follow his lead. And that was some of the best advice I was ever given. In fact, you might say it was the start of an education of a second lieutenant, platoon leader, replacement officer.
Can you put it over the wheelchair? Okay. Dale, yeah. I'm going to have you stand behind Mr. Burris, between Mr. Burris and Pellegrini. Right behind. Between them, on the other side.
On the other side.
Yeah. All right, a bunch of envelopes. All right. I want you to self-address the envelopes. And we get you the photos, okay? So let this gentleman take your photograph, and then I'll be right back with the envelopes.
And real quick, while he's setting up, my name is Dustin Spence. I'm doing a documentary on the Battle of Iwo Jima and the flag raising. After this, we're going to be up in the library, and we'd love to do interviews with you. Like I said, the main thing for me is passing this on to future generations, and I would love to do interviews with all of you if you have the time. We will be there up in the library after this event, so however long we need you guys. So really appreciate it.
Also, we've got a photo of Ken and Nate drawing. You're an Iwo member, we would like to have your signature on it.
I don't know, I never talked to him.
I could get a hold of